And so the second season of the RaceRoom Ranked Championship in 2023 continues, this time with our third championship. We've done the MX5 Cup, we've done the Carrera Cup, and now it is time for the Praga Cup. And as you may well know already, having joined us for the last few weeks, we ventured to different circuits this time throughout the entirety of the season, 12 different tracks with the 3 different cars across the entire season. And of course, that means we go to Suzuka, over to the land of the rising sun, and to one of the greatest racetracks on this planet. It's myself, Liz McGlade, and unfortunately for everyone watching, for the second consecutive week, it is Ewan O'Leary in the commentary box. Hello, Ewan. Welcome. Ready for some Praga racing, something we don't really see racing that much in the world of sim racing.
No, we don't see this car very much at all, but I think this track around here at Suzuka is going to be very well suited. In fact, this whole schedule is picked quite well for the Praga Cup, I would say. The high downforce nature of Suzuka and Brands Hatch sort of bookending the season, I think, is going to suit these cars very well. And there's always good racing around Interlagos and Silverstone as well. So looking forward to seeing what the Praga Cup has to offer for us over the course of 8 races and 4 rounds this season. Yeah,
of the 3 circuits we've had, obviously the MX-5s started at Laguna Seca, the Carreras started at the Hockenheim Ring, us coming to Suzuka. This, for me, of those first 3 circuits, this is the one I like the most. I absolutely adore Suzuka. It's kind of one that has a little bit of, so some people really don't like it, and I just say that's because you're not good. And so, by the way, we'll take a little look as well through the other stats and stuff whilst I'm not firing shots at the rest of the people watching. The timetable for tonight, we've got qualifying, which is presently underway. That is what they're in at the moment before we get to 2 30-minute races. Should be quite exciting across the entire an hour of racing action around the Titan twists of Suzuka. It's not an easy one to take, and so kind of qualifying is really important. You've got to get yourself up the order.
Yeah, you do, and I do feel like the order is going to sort of select itself, though, over the course of this qualifying session, because as you can see, 5.8 kilometres around here is a long way, and there's a lot of difficult corners on the way as well. And by the way, yes, you're absolutely right. That's exactly the reason why I don't like Suzuka. I'm not good at it. But it is challenging, and that's what I mean when I say the field is going to select itself. The qualifying session is going to be so tricky in terms of nailing a lap around here and doing well around a lap, that actually the field is going to be set quite well for what they're realistically going to do in the race as well. So while qualifying is a focus, yes, I feel like most of these drivers are going to end up where they would have done anyway over the course of half an hour.
Yeah, and of course there is a top 10 reverse grid for that second race, along with mandatory pit stop that they need to take 2 tyres on during the race. There's a little look at the track. We've done done how the championship works. Let's look at the car. Of course, the Praga R1, made famous by a certain YouTuber. It's fine. Obviously, the one that was run by Jimmy Broadbent. Obviously, everyone really likes this car, Goldie or whatever. But it's light. It's not got so much power, but she's pretty quick, and that's why taking it around a circuit like this, going through that S's section, going up through Dunlop, taking on Spoon Curve, that's all going to be really interesting. It does mean that corners like 130R will almost be boring in a car like this, just because it's got a decent amount of downforce, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, it's not the most exciting corner, I do agree, in these cars. However, it's a fun car to drive, I would say. You mentioned that, it's very light, and that's why it doesn't really need the power. 365 isn't realistically a lot, but although we do have Mazda MX-5 Cup, I suppose that puts it into perspective. But it's a very light car, so you don't actually need that much power, and it is going to feel a pretty quick car. Although it's not up there with the high-end prototypes by any means. It does look like a prototype and feels like it often as well, but it doesn't quite have the pace of even an LMP3, I don't think.
No, it's not as fast as a GT3. I know that. So it's obviously definitely not as fast as an LMP3. But I guess it's more track dependent. It might be faster than a GT3 around Brands Hatch. But obviously we'll deal with that later on in the season. It doesn't have that straight line grunt. What that does mean is the racing in this should actually be pretty entertaining. We'll take a look at the entry list. Obviously some of the names that you might recognise, Luciano Vitfit here, Matej Mikiewicz, both the Mackerberg, Sven, Marvin Mackerberg. You've got Villa Cravey in there, Evtushenko, who's sort of really stepping into the RaceRoom Ranked Championship as well. Victor Stretemans, who we've commentated on quite a few times. Obviously, did do the MX-5 Cup as well to start the season. Some of the other ones in this, the likes of Charlie Monk, we've spoken about a few times before, Mihai Neg, Gaspar, Mish, some drivers that might well do fairly well in a car in an evening like this.
We've got some previous champions of RaceRoom ranked championship seasons in the past, like Negu won the what was it, BMWs, wasn't it, for the very first season,
so, yeah.
In somewhat, well, I was going to say controversial. It wasn't controversial at all, but it was just odd the way he won that championship at Watkins Glen back in the day. But yeah, plenty of great drivers on here. Luciano Vipert as well, who's reigning GT3 champion. Of course, this series, some would say, replaced by the GT3 series, if you like, it being the third of the three, and has the most racing within it as well, an hour's worth of racing per night. But as you say, split into 2 races this time rather than the hour-long race that we had in GT3. Plenty of big names to pick from there on this entry list tonight.
And of course, we head into qualifying. It's already been going on for 25 minutes. And typically, when we jump in, we don't normally see that many improvements. They've already done a lot of the heavy lifting in qualifying. We thought, obviously, it's the first one of the season. We'll take a look at how these cars are wrestling their way around Suzuki. Saw a little bit of sliding there coming from Luciano Vipert as he departs the second of the Degners. Really impressive lap time for Matej Mikiewicz. At the moment, on pole position by half a second. I would say this is the kind of circuit where I wouldn't be too surprised, even in really, really strong fields, the highest strength in sim racing, sometimes see a pole position, quarter of a second, 3/10. I'm not that shocked. Half a second's pretty big, though.
Yeah, it's quite big, but even so, I agree. It's one of those circuits where you are likely to see big gaps anyway. So I think you've got to take that into account when looking at Matej Mikiewicz's time there. He's already won races, by the way, in 2 different RaceRoom ranked championships in the Mazdas last season at Nordschleife, and he won last season in the KTM GTX Trophy as well. Looking to add a 3rd series race win to his list of achievements if he can, and this will be a good place to start as we look at Marvin Mackenberg come over the line. He will probably go quicker. 2 personal best first and second sectors. Well, he has gone quicker by 0.06 of a second. That unfortunately is not going to move him very far very quickly.
This is why I brought you on, Ewan, for this one, because I know that you're much like me. You're a stats man. Cam Roger, Zach Sweeney, Dareth Acker. They're not into the stats like we are. We like the numbers. No. But the numbers at the moment are leaning heavily towards the Hungarian, who's presently sat on pole position. A few drivers still out on circuit. Quite a few have returned to pit lane. Mikiewicz, Villacrevi, Sven Mackenberg, Radoslav Obratal, they're all in the pit lane at the moment, and so they will not get another time onto the board. Mihai Neg currently second in the session, coming up towards that first sector split, is out on circuit, as you can see, and on a lap time at the moment, looking to try and improve, maybe pull himself clear the likes of Luciano Vipert. Neg returns to pit lane, says absolutely not to that. So Luciano Vipert becomes the next highest driver on the circuit. As Peter Daniel improves a little bit in the first sector, needs just, 9,000 per second to go 1 position better?
Yeah, it's not a lot, but it's going to be difficult to find. Big slide on the way out of the hairpin. That's kind of the way that you drive these cars. I said it's sort of like a prototype, this car, but some of the ways you have to drive it sometimes feel a little bit unprototype-like. We'll see it through Spoon here as well. We'll probably see a bit of opposite lock through here, although it looked pretty understeery through the first part. There's the correction through the second part of Spoon, and especially on the power as well. Sort of chasing the car out wide there almost, and which obviously you wouldn't normally get at all in a prototype. Yeah,
it's because obviously, yes, it's not as much downforce as you would get on a prototype. You do slide the car around a bit more, which is a lot of fun. Still corners like this. It's well within the confines of the grip on board this vehicle, but it does mean that it's a lot of fun when you come to tight, twisty bits, even like this. Almost a bit of a little go-kart. You chuck it through that final sector down the hill. Luciano Vipert trying to get onto the front row of the grid. First sector's okay, second sector's decent. Third sector is going to be a little bit. We've got to take a breath down towards the line. It is going to be good enough though to stick him onto the front row. So the Flying Dutchman goes onto the front row of the grid along with Matej Mikiewicz. 1 minute and 20 seconds left to go in the session. Like Felix Bjorn still out on circuit. Michael Defek, Jesper Ontis still out there, as well as Rasmus Löfgren, who driver I don't actually recognise. So we've got a couple of new talents heading their way out onto the circuit.
He did race the Carreras last week, but yes, I hadn't seen him before then either. So yeah, few new names on the grid actually here. Felix Bjorn, by the way, not one of those new ones, but he did just within a second of the time by Martin Mišković there to become the 7th driver within 1 second here in qualifying. Sorry to divert your attention here, Lewis, but someone asking how you get into one of these races. I think it's worth explaining. Basically having the highest rating and highest reputation, or the top 20 anyway, to get into the first split. But splits go all the way down, don't they? It doesn't really matter what your rating is. You will get put into a race for the Praga Cup and all the different championships.
Yeah, exactly. And I've been speaking to Chris Ted, Captain Coffee, obviously piecing these events together, how he's making it more efficient and stuff behind the scenes to try and make it easier for you taking part. But yeah, you've got to get your rank up. I mean, if you've seen it in other platforms where it comes to getting your reputation, reputation is basically being clean on the circuit, and then your ranking is where you finishing higher up, you get better rankings, and then you get put against stronger grids, and then you move higher up. Best goes against the best, and that is the same on these days. So there are more splits even below this with some crazy racing. Let's take a look then at the qualifying results. Martin Mišković on the pole position by 1/3 of a second over Luciano Vitfort, and then Mihai Neg, Villa Cravey, Sven Mackenberg inside that top 5. We do expect the Mackenbergs, they're normally good when it comes to strategy and stuff. Maybe that might have to happen in the half-hour races. Peter Daniel, Felix Bjorn, Marvin Mackenberg with Obertow and Strettermans rounding out the top 10 for the Symphony of Pistons Esports team. Behind all of that, we've got Lichtenhagen, who will be starting from the 11th position with Evtushenko, Dufek, Ontis, Monk, Lufgren, and then, of course, Gaspar Misch. Norman Norms, everyone's favourite, just because that name is fun. And James Beckett rounding out the 19-car fields. These are maxed at 20 cars on this grid, as opposed to what we sometimes see in, what we used to see in the GT3s, what we've sometimes seen in, the MX-5s and stuff like that. These are limited to 20. So it's not that we've got a low turnout, it's that the grids are generally lower, which then means that we've got more splits. So we've got a lot going on below all this. A lot of people are going racing at this very moment, which is what we like to see.
It is. If our numbers are to be believed, then, well, I don't want to do the maths on this because I don't know what 942 divided by 20 is, but it's that many splits, however many that is. What's that? Is that nearly 50? 48, 46, 47, something like that. It
would be if everyone showed up. Yes. It would
that's true as well.
And 47, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. So it would be something like that. And also the fact that, I mean, you can see it here in this bit. We've only got 19 here, whereas we're, capped at 20. You'd expect us to have 20, but not quite. People not turn up, etc. So that's the way that it works. But yeah, little bit smaller grids, I think, helps this kind of racing. It's the only championship of the three I think you get away with doing that in. But I think it's a good idea for the Praga Cup just to keep numbers slightly lower.
Yeah, I think, like I say, you don't want to breach too high, especially when you've got 2 races. Obviously, the first of these coming from the qualifying grid order, the second one being a top 10 reversal. So half the grid will get reversed for that second race. They've got to make a mandatory pit stop. They've got to change 2 tyres in that mandatory stop, which means there's a little bit of strategy at play as well as we get ready to go racing for the first of the rounds in the racing ranked Praga Cup. Matej Mišković then on pole position. Luciano Vitfort alongside on that front row. The lights will come on and this enormous run down towards the first corner, and it is seriously downhill begins. Matej Mišković with a decent start. Not a good one though from Luciano Vitfort, who's being swallowed up by the pack as well as they head their way down the hill. Villa Cravey marching his way up in the second position of the white and blue car. Of course he had to pick it because he's finished. Oh, there's been a spin on the inside. That's Sven Mackenberg.
He just got into the side. I think it was Mihai Neg there, or maybe Villa Cravey. It was one of the two of them, and he got around and straight to the back of the field for Sven Mackenberg. Not only does that set him back for race 1, of course, but for race 2 as well, where if he can't get into the top 10 again, he can't benefit from a reverse grid. A really costly error in the very first corner of this championship.
Yeah, we'll now have to dig very, very deep indeed. They fly their way down into the first Degner, taking a bit of curb. Some drivers taking different methodology here. Some drivers taking a lot of that curb, other drivers going slightly wide of it. In a car like this, you don't really want to be slapping it over curbs too high. It runs very low to the road. This is towards the back end of the top 10. Victor Strettermans, Obertow defending from Dufek. There's a bit of a slide as well. Out wide, Obertow will go. He's going to drop a couple of positions. I think there's another one. I think it might have been Evtushenko maybe dropping a few positions in all of this.
Not entirely sure. There's been a lot of changes going on in this opening lap, in all honesty. It's a very, very different look to especially the middle order of this field than what we saw in qualifying. Down the inside there goes Jesper Ontis into Spoon Curve, and Obertal was more than happy to just let that one go because Spoon Curve is very difficult on its own, in all honesty. You'd much rather live to fight another day, as Mihai Neg now looks at going past Villa Gravy in towards 130R. We said it's a boring corner in these cars, arguably, and that is meaning they can go side by side on the way through it.
Yeah, I was going to say the fact that it's kind of well within the capability of the car. It means you actually get quite a bit of racing in there. Marvin Mackenberg says, I don't really like the Casio Triangle very much. Whoopsie daisy, straight over it he goes. Almost certainly going to have to give up a couple of positions courtesy of that to Felix Bjorn straight back through. Felix Bjorn's going to go on the inside, the Swedes, as they race their way down towards the first corner. Look at the snaking. These cars aren't the fastest in a straight line, and what that means is, again, the slipstream is more intensified. You'll see a lot of driving coming down to that first corner. A lot of darts, ducks, weaves, looks down the inside. Brilliant cutbacks going into that second apex, which is technically the second turn, even though the whole complex is called the first turn. Welcome to Suzuka. Let's talk about Luciano Wittfurt, though. Down to 8th position on the race start. It has not gone well for the Dutchman. And
it was mostly, I would say, down to that launch off the line as well. He just seemed to go nowhere from the front row of the grid, and then nearly just shoulder barged Peter Daniel for some reason. I don't really know why, but he seemed to turn sharp right on the straight towards him, didn't actually make contact in the end, lost another couple of places. I just wonder whether he was caught behind Sven Mackenberg as he was spinning around and he had to just slow up slightly while some others went round the outside of him. I'm not entirely sure on that, but he has lost some more. He's now down to 8th place. At least he's still in the top 10, but it is a bit of a disaster. 6 places on one lap.
Yeah, unfortunately as well, bit more of a disaster for James Beckett, who now drops down a few positions. Sven Mackenberg gets past Norman. Norman's looking backwards from Marvin Mackenberg. You've got Luciano Wittfurt looking to the inside, being covered off by Victor Stretmans as they head their way down into Spoon Curve. Little bit wider than what we'd want from Marvin Mackenberg, who we're on board with, and wide once again on the exit of Spoon. But this is going to allow the slipstream. Watch it from Luciano Wittfurt. He's got the slipstream of the pair of them. They're going side by side towards 130R. The Dutchman could gain a couple of positions here going into the triangle.
Yeah, it just depends how much these two slow each other down and how sensible Victor Straitmans is in some ways as well. Now comes Luciano Wittfurt on the outside. He switches to the inside and decides no, that's not a good idea in the braking zone. Mackenberg goes very deep though. They're all going to be on top of each other on the way out of the Casio Triangle. Dearie me, this is going to be a big mess in towards turn 1, and hopefully they make it through.
Certainly so. Of course, seeing these racing basically for the first time properly here on RaceRoom. It's going to be 3 wide down towards the first corner, courtesy of Luciano Wittfurt. Victor Stretmans backs out. Luciano Wittfurt works his way up. There's 1 position gain. That's the Belgian out wide. Stretmans going to open the door as well for Defect to come through. So a couple of position switches in all of this. A bit of a slow exit as well from Luciano Wittfurt. Nearly cost him a position on the exit of the second corner as they enter the S's once again.
It's all stacked up here because we've got loads of drivers catching on now, including Littenhagen, who's at the back of this train as well in 10th place. So, sorry, Jesper Ontis behind him as well, isn't there? So everyone's involved here, including those who are just outside of the top 10 as well. This is the kind of racing, though, that Suzuka can create. It's sometimes a struggle to get past one another, and that's not particularly the case here, but even so, it is creating a rather large group, which you do sometimes see at this track.
Sometimes where there's someplace where there's not a large group, rather. Is at the front, Matej Mikovic. See ya. He has gone. He has checked out 2.2 seconds clear of Mihai Neg at the moment. The Hungarian is absolutely flying around Suzuka as Luciano Wittfurt's trying to get past Marvin Mackenberg. Look to the inside coming into Spoon. Couple of mistakes from Marvin Mackenberg into Spoon on the previous lap time. This time it's looking a bit smoother, but once again holding a very tight line. Does not go out to use the curb, what would be on the driver's right-hand side as you go through Spoon Curve, the one between them. Sometimes in a car like this, that curb is quite high. These cars are quite low, and it can pull you and off the circuit just a touch and not allow you to get into that second apex. And that might be why Marvin Mackenberg is avoiding using it. If not, he's certainly not taking an efficient line through Spoon.
Yeah, it's Difficult oh dear, that wasn't efficient either. In towards the Casio triangle at all. And Luciano Vitvert is going to benefit greatly off of that, as Victor Straetmans has gone off the road at the Casio triangle as well. That was in a side-by-side battle, I think maybe with Lister Hagen, as we were just looking back there, but it's side-by-side between Vitvert and Marvin Mackenberg again, and Vitvert is now through. It just seemed that he hasn't lost any of his pace, he's just lost all of his positions, and now Vitvert is recovering some of them.
Ontis and Monk also switching positions behind all that. I think we've got the train behind Obratau now, who you can see at the front of this. Then Ontis, then Monk, then Evtushenko, who's also in this train. Like you say, a little bit further back from all this, Victor Straetmans, Sven Mackenberg, Norman Olsen, drivers that have had issues in the first 5 or so minutes of this race. But as we head towards the middle portion of this race, as you can see at the top left of your screen, the pit window is about to open. So there's opportunities now for certain drivers to maybe pit earlier, maybe get themselves out of these trains and try and pounce on the opportunity of working their way forward and maybe make the most of a couple of new tyres on the front of the car.
Making the most of a slide right now is Charlie Monk, as he sees Jesper Ontis get all out of shape out of Degner 2. Now Charlie Monk will get the position, and through as well will go Yutashenko. Very possibly he'll be on the outside though for this very long run around what's called turn 12, and it's just the longer distance really. It's not any benefit to being on the outside here. He just has to cover more meters. Now on the inside at Spoon though, he should have the place, although Ontis is giving him a good run for his money around the outside. He'll run a little bit wide though and lose the place eventually, and now Beckett will try and come through as well.
Yeah, Beckett's knocking at the door. So again, the recovery from Beckett. He dropped back a few positions not too long ago. Pit window is open this time side by side towards 130R. Inside line being taken. Charlie Monk's all over the curve at 130R. Out wide goes Defect. Now Evtushenko is going to be knocking at the door, trying to get around the outside of the triangle. Commits heavily on the brake. Sends it straight round. Brilliant move there from Evtushenko as Villacravy heads down pit lane for the first time.
I'm kind of surprised that Krevy has come in, but I wouldn't have been surprised to see some of these guys into the pit lane, and I'm not at all surprised to see Dufek make his way down pit lane, because you'd want to get yourself out of this traffic right now, I would imagine. Monk is instead going to try and do it on the road. He can't quite into turn 1, but he does very well to tuck back in line again before Jesper Ontis decided to take his 10th place.
Yeah, obviously people looking every which way going up into the S's section, trying to find their opportunity to make a move in the S's section. You've kind of got to set this up, kind of what Ontis is doing here, setting it up for one corner, going for the cutback, looking back underneath, constantly trying to get up the inside of a certain corner. It was an attempt really to get down the inside of the Dunlop curve. Did not work out on this occasion, and now may have to defend from James Beckett, who again is knocking back at the door into the Degners once more. You got to say, with the lead that Mate Mikiewicz, never mind, Ontis has gone out wide as he tries to rejoin. He's going to lose positions. Oh, and he absolutely slaps the sides of Lufgren's car. That was a bit careless.
Well, thankfully, Lufgren wouldn't have, or doesn't seem to have felt the effects of it. And he's able to continue on. And by the way, Sven Mackenberg is in with these guys again as well. I would have thought that it would have been over for Sven, to be honest, in this first race, but he's caught up to them within 10 minutes, and now he's got 20 to try and get a place inside the top 10, which is, I'm sure, what he'll be aiming for here in this race.
Of course, there are a couple of drivers that have pitted that were originally ahead of him, so as much as he's in 13th position, realistically, I think it's probably close to 15th. The point is, though, is that he's knocking at the door of those important spots. Here's a look at Luciano Vitvert on the back of Felix Bjorn, who took a much tighter line going through 130R. I don't think he's trying to fight it as the Swede. Seemed to basically give that one up to Luciano Vitvert as they went through the triangle. So Luciano Vitvert now works his way up into 4th position. They depart the triangle and begin the basically, it's a 1 kilometre run from the triangle down an enormously steep hill into turn 1, which is what creates some drama, like we've just seen up here into Spoon. Contact between Victor Straetmans and Gaspar Misch, just a bit awkward between the pair of them, and Misch has been sent out to the barrier. You could say he missed the corner. Oh dear. Well,
I must admit that thought did come into my head as well, but I didn't say it.
Sorry.
Anyway, Misch has gone to the back, and I'm afraid that will be the end of his competitive race, I would imagine, at least for the very moment. But yeah, a bit of a clumsy one for the both of them. It seemed to be a very slow developing accident, that one of those ones that you almost see happening in slow motion in real time, if you see what I mean. And in the end, Misch is the unlucky one who ends up in the barriers.
I am both sorry to have, for one, said that, and for two, to have said it late, because I only thought about it a few moments after. Oh dear, that's fine. Anyway, embarrassing moments on RaceRoom broadcast. Stick that one into the book. Big shame for Gaspar Misch, but like you say, it's probably more about just trying to maybe pick up a couple of positions and maybe get in position for the second race. Again, there is a second race coming up after this. It's a top 10 reverse grid, of which the likes of Gaspar Misch, probably even Victor Strettmann, they're not going to be involved in that potential top 10 reverse. So it's just about survival at the moment, and yeah, just maybe picking up a couple of spots.
I'm not sure whether Colin Blankenberg was commenting on your joke, but he says race ruined, and I think he's absolutely right. But, anyway, let's move past the Misch jokes for the moment, because surely these guys at the front will be in at some point soon. I mean, to be fair, the top four are actually driving on their own at the moment, so I don't really see the need, top five even, the need to come in at the moment. I certainly did with others earlier on, but not really anymore. Petter Daniel, nevertheless, has decided to come in, and that might be to cover off Villacravey, who he was in and around before the stops.
Yeah, so I was going to bring this up a little bit earlier on about Mate Mikovic before we had a huge amount of drama. With the lead that he's got, do you reckon he's got any intentions of pitting anytime soon, or is he literally going to let this one roll out towards the end of the pit window, pit then, and then saunter down to the checkered flag and take a victory?
I'm not sure how long the tyres last on these, to be fair. So if they do last quite well, and the two tyres is purely sort of a strategic thing by people organising just to add a bit of interest in there, then fair enough. I would run to the end of the window. But if indeed these tyres will fall off, then I guess why not pit halfway at the end of the next lap maybe, and try and keep your tyre wear as even as possible. But I don't think the tyres will be burning up after half an hour or so. So if I was in the lead at this position, I would probably stay out there in the clear air for as long as possible, although you would be nervous about being undercut by someone.
Yeah, exactly. Again, just to hammer home the point that they've got that pit stop to make in the mandatory portion during sort of the middle portion of the race, from about 22 minutes 50 until basically just gone 10 minutes left to go in the race. They've got plenty of time to make that stop. In the mandatory stop, they must change 2 tyres. They don't have to change all 4. You can get away with just 2. So yeah, whether if you're sliding the rear around a little bit more, maybe you want to just change the rears. If you're sliding the front around, maybe you just want to change the front. Left, I think you can just change left, just change right. So you got a couple of options there, but you must change 2 tyres to tick off the mandatory stop. If not, you'll be returning your way back into pit lane. You can see who's done their requirement in the pit lane by the people with the number 1 next. Shock, that one. But either way, at the front of the field, it is still Mate Mikovic leading by 4 seconds. Luciano Wittfurt now works his way down the pit lane, and this is one that I'm a bit interested by. Where is Luciano Wittfurt going to come out after his issues earlier on in the race? He did a good job to work his way back up the order inside the top 10, top 5. Now will probably drop back, I'd say, behind Petter Daniel, in the Petter Daniel Marvin Mackenberg battle, kind of around there in 10th and 11th and 12th.
I wasn't going to hedge my bets quite that narrowly, because Daniel and Mackenberg are basically nose to tail at the moment.
I meant in that somewhere.
Okay, I was going to go between Mackenberg and Obratel actually, but let's see. Oh, he might be in front of them actually. He's already made his way to the pit exit. He might be in front of Villacravey. Goodness me, this is a good opening stint from Luciano Wittfurt. He's clearly lost all of that time on the opening lap, but he's not lost any speed at all. He's alongside Villacravey into the first sector. Yeah,
brilliant move then. So Villacravey works his way back past Luciano Wittfurt. Wittfurt's definitely on the fight for top 5, maybe podium, which is amazing considering his race start, dropping from the front row to about 8th position in a few corners. Big slide there from Luciano Wittfurt though, as they come their way through the S's up towards Dunlop once more, looking backwards from the Finnish driver who presently holds on to 9th position, the highest of the drivers that have already made the pit stops. 15 minutes left to go in this race, the first one of the Praga Cup season, of course, but a solid position, and maybe even a championship favourite. But the next race being a top 10 reverse grid, I would kind of want to practice a few moves in this race. If I had to work my way back up the order, I'd be feeling pretty confident about the next one, about being able to do the same thing in the top 10 reverse.
I think so. I mean, it's always a different prospect though when you're in the pack and you have to make up moves like that. It's was a very, very different race, as we know. So it'd be interesting to see what those leading drivers who have done so well over the course of this race can actually do from the back, because we don't get too many reverse grids in these RaceRoom Rank Championship events. We only got one series out of the 3 last season. We've got a couple this time, but we don't often see it outside of the Mazdas. So looking forward to that as another 4 make their way down pit lane. Does seem that not many are willing to go past the halfway mark, suggesting that they do want to keep their tyre wear roughly even, although there were plenty of people eager to come in very early. So I guess they're not particularly concerned about it. Not sure.
Yeah, I don't think it's kind of a big deal. Obviously, the tyre wear does take effect, and it will slow you down a little bit. But realistically speaking, I don't think it actually changes too much. It's more just incorporating a little bit of strategy into the half-hour race rather than making it for a necessity type deal. You don't have to just do, what was it, 18 laps, wasn't it? The Qatar Grand Prix, where they could only do 18 laps. We're not going to talk about that, that's fine. Out of the pit lane, a few drivers come, the likes of James Beckett. Defect comes out around Sven Makkeberg, trying to work his way back up the order. We look at Sven Makkeberg. Evtushenko's had an issue. You can see him in the background, and he is off in the gravel, or maybe it's just the tarmac, actually.
I think he got away with the tarmac, actually, that's been installed in, well, I'm about to say recent years, not that recent, but yeah, he's had a spin around, and he'll be outside the top 10 as well by the time these pit stops end. Still in front of the 2 Swedes, Ontis and Lofgren, who have found each other again through the first sector of the lap. We're really waiting for very few drivers to come down pit lane now. Matej Miskovic is clearly not very worried about being undercut here out front. Still 12.5 minutes to go, so that means he's probably got 2 more laps if he wants them. And he clearly wants at least 1 more, so he'll make his way around. What about Mihai Neg? No. We will see the Romanian into the pit lane, probably near Krevy and Vitvert, who are still fighting.
Yeah, but I mean, Matej Miskovic, the reason why he's not worried about the undercut, you saw it on the screen, the last lap, best lap, he just set the fastest lap of the race. Well, guess what? He's just set the fastest lap of the race again. He's just set a 57.336. That is faster. Of those that have stopped, let's take Villa Cravey for an example. Matej Miskovic has just set a 57.3. Villa Cravey's last lap time was a 58.5. It's a second and a bit faster, as this time Luciano Vitford straight down the inside going into the Casio triangle. He is returning his way up to 2nd position, but in a very impressive drive from the Dutchman as they work their way through. It'll be 3rd, but I'm sure he's not going to be that far down on Mihai Neg as we begin that kilometre run down towards the first corner.
He's making me wonder what he could have done if he'd have just gotten that car off the line a little bit better. And I wonder what worry he's going to take into race 2 as well, as to whether he's going to do the same thing again. Because right now, 3rd place seems to be where he's going to end up. I can't see him crossing that 5-second gap to Mihai Neg in 2nd place. But is he going to get off the line a little bit better from 8th place in the 2nd race, because that is what's going to be really key for him. He's clearly got the speed, but just needed a better start, and he could have certainly challenged for 2nd, maybe even for the win.
He's got, not only has he got the speed, he's got the ability to overtake as well. That's the important thing, and he's proven that already. So, he's already gone from 8th onto the podium. Might well be trying to do the same thing as Mihai Neg's had a problem. You were saying about the 5 seconds. I think Mihai Neg, the Romanian, has had an issue on the exit of the second Tegner, wrong track. Just to clarify, still not a commentator's curse. It doesn't exist, but that was pretty bad, He's going to really dislike you, Steve.
Sorry. Sorry, yeah. Well, I should have pre-warned that with the fact that if he doesn't make a mistake, of course, I just said it without that preface. But anyway, he's done it now. So he's going to be caught, and there will be a fight for 2nd after all. And who knows how many it could involve. It could even involve Marvin Mackenberg if it gets really crazy. He's not even that far away at the moment. But Matej Miskovic is into the pit lane now. There's still a 3rd distance remaining in this first race of the evening. I'd imagine he'll have no problems coming out ahead of Neg, although I don't want to say anything anymore really about that. He'll probably be upwards of maybe 10 seconds now.
He's going to be fuming at you after those. No, obviously, the thing is, Mihai Neg recently came out of pit lane. And you've got to remember, again, they only changed 2 tyres on the stop. And depending on which ones you've done, it can create a really nasty balance in the car. To be fair, that's kind of why in some races like this, sometimes you want to pit early, because then your front to rear displacement of wear is much closer. Depending on which ones you switch, or however you switch it around, the difference between your most worn tyre and your least worn tyre is much more balanced if you pit earlier, which means the car's generally a bit more predictable and a bit more compliant. When you pit quite late, because of that difference in grip, you can sometimes come out the pit lane and you're basically driving a boat, or you're driving an absolute death trap that just wants to kill you on every single corner, with it just sliding around, or sometimes it'll understeer in some corners and more than it ever did before, and oversteer in others, and you're kind of like, this balance feels unpredictable. And it's just because you've got the balance wrong on the tyres, and it's just wear related. So sometimes the pitting early thing might be better.
It's a good point. I mean, it's difficult to know, having not experienced it ourselves in one of these races, but even so, it makes sense. And it's a good point, because you do generally want to keep things as even as possible, especially when you're at road course racing like this. Doesn't seem to matter so much when you're on an oval, really. That's why you see 2 tyres in NASCAR or whatever, but on here it's a little bit different in road course racing, and you do want to keep yourself as even as possible, but clearly Matej Miskovic is not worried about that at all, and clearly the tyres aren't too much of a concern, really, because I haven't really noticed anyone making any massive overcuts or undercuts through this pit stop phase, really.
No, again, pace-wise, I want to keep an eye on as to what Matej Miskovic is going to do on the next lap. Of course, it'll be his first flying lap on these tyres. We ride on board with Luciano Vitford, who's recently just set the fastest middle sector of the race, as he races his way down into the first corner. The driver who's got the second fastest lap of everyone on the grid might well become the first as we cross the line. It does become the fastest lap of 57.23. Oh, that was actually set by... No, it was set by him. It was just slow on the update. That was Luciano Vitford who did set that time. So Vitford is flying right now.
Yeah, and it's not much of a gap, by the way, to the other best laps, but anyway, he is flying and showing once again that maybe he's got something to say in this second race, which I'm very excited for, I've got to say. I don't know how it's going to pan out with those who are going to be starting towards the front in that one. I think some of it rests on whether Sven Mackenberg can get ahead of Dufek in the next 7 minutes, which probably equates to 4 laps over the course of this race. Let's see if he can get to that top 10, which I really didn't think was possible when he spun around at turn 1 on the opening lap.
No, it's been a very impressive recovery drive from Sven Mackenberg. Could well put himself onto reverse grid pole, completely change his aspirations for the evening. Fastest first sector of the entire race, just been set by Matej Miskovic. So clearly the balance is not a problem for the Hungarian at the head of the field. We look backwards there from Dufek. We can see Sven Mackenberg. We can see Victor Stretmans as well, who's shown some solid pace this evening, and the pair of them looking to fight their way onto the reverse grid pole. And hey, 1.8 seconds down the road is James Beckett, who's had his fair share of problems throughout the evening. So maybe we're going to have a big fight for that final spot in the reverse grid.
I think we are certainly going to see that now, because the difference in terms of where you start from for race 2 is very big. Oh, it's not going to be much of a battle though. Victor Stretmans is going to go straight through on Sven Mackenberg, who'll be ruining that error. Will that cost him a top 10 place?
Maybe, but there's still plenty of time for them to get to. Obviously, where they are, 11th position is not in the reverse grid. They need to be in that top 10. They need to be ahead of Dufek. They need to be ahead of Beckett. That's what they're eyeing up. The two of those switching over almost makes no difference as the battle for the second step on the podium continues. Mihai Neg, the Romanian, hanging on from Luciano Vitford, the holder of our fastest lap in this race. Matej Miskovic did not set the fastest lap on the previous one, just the fastest first sector. The sector 2 and sector 3 were terrible in comparison. Although I will say the top 3 in this race, all 3 of their lap times were separated by 1/100th of a second. So they're pretty close, which is a good sign potentially for the next race. Obviously, Miskovic has just been able to pull out a gap early doors at the start of this race, but I do feel that the pace is pretty equal between these 3.
I think so. I think especially for Vitford, actually, I think he really could have kept up with Miskovic, actually. And throughout that qualifying session, I know we might have seen it, but it wasn't on the pictures anyway, but we were looking at the times obviously, and Vitford was up towards the front and a lot closer to Miskovic for most of that session compared to when we joined. He was a bit closer earlier on in the session, so I think that they will be quite close over the course of the second race as well. I think a lot of it bears on whether Sven Mackenberg can make it into the top 10 or not. I think he really does have the pace to win if he gets pole for the second race, but he might not get there.
Yeah, maybe. Like I say, it's still a long road left to go. 3 laps, maybe 2 laps rather, left to go once they cross the line, courtesy of where they are. It'll be quite close. Matej Mikiewicz coming into that final sector, although because when it comes to the start-finish line, we're not using the normal one. We're using the one that's quite late, so definitely just the 2 laps left. Matej Mikiewicz, though, not having to deal with the problems from these two. Mihai Neg, Luciano Vitfort, incredible battle coming through 130R. Tight going into the Casio triangle. Mihai Neg having to defend it and pulling off the defensive debut, I guess, in the race, in the championship, hanging on to that second spot. Luciano Vitfort, though, knocking at the door as they come down towards the first corner, Ewan.
It's going to be a long way around the outside here for Vitfort. If he can make it work, though, it will be spectacular. He's going to be too wide. He didn't really squeeze Neg there nearly enough. And a big slide for the Romanian in front of the Dutchman, almost as if to say, no, you're not coming through at this moment. So he'll have another couple of laps to try and find his way through, but that is not going to be the chance of Vitfort, and he'll have to search again. It is going to be just between these two, though. They've left behind Villacrevi and the rest behind.
Yeah, almost was a bit of like a mirror image of, what was it? Was it 2005 when Kimi Räikkönen went around the outside of Giancarlo Fisichella on the last lap of the Japanese Grand Prix? Was that 05?
Yeah, I reckon. Yeah, it was an odd number. 03 is too early, isn't it? Must have been
03 is too early. Yeah. No, I think it was 05. And obviously, of our commentary team, 2 of them weren't even alive when that race happened, which is terrible because Dareth Thacker and Zach Sweeney weren't. And you were.
Well, yeah, for once it's not me. I don't remember watching that race, of course, because it was about 2, but or 3 right. Probably, nearly.
Have it.
Well, Formula 1 its seasons used to end very early, didn't they, compared to these days? So still 2 probably. But yes, anyway, I was at least alive. At that point, which is makes a change for once. Yeah, what a great race, and hopefully we can get a similar ending to race 2, because I can't see it happening in this one.
No, not with the laps we're seeing from Mikiewicz. Final spot outside of the reverse grid, switching over. Sven Makkeberg, Victor Stretmans once again switching. 1 lap left to go after this one, as here comes Luciano Vitfort. Big contact with Mihai Neg as Vitfort sends one in. And to be fair, Mihai Neg says, all right, lad, you're going to give me some of that. Have it back, Chief. As we have our first 1 minute 56 set. Matej Mikiewicz, a 1 minute 56.968. Incredible from the Hungarian. He's absolutely flying onto a victory lap, his final lap of this race. Meanwhile, the battle for second is absolutely on the edge of our seats.
Yeah, and hats off to Mihai Neg there from me, because he didn't just jump across the corner and just complain that he was pushed off the road. He was pushed off the road by Vitfort, there's no doubt about that in my mind, but he didn't just give up and go across the corner and just regain the place anyway and give us all a headache to think about with regards to race control and all that kind of business. He just said, well, I'll just stuff it down the inside of you then. And he took the second place back all over again. I think that was great racing from Neg, because if that position stood from Vitfort, then I really would have been uncomfortable with it. That was a really overly, well, he just didn't get it stopped in time really, or give enough room.
Yeah, are you firing shots at various Formula 1 drivers who, as soon as someone's down the inside, they just skip over the chicane? Is that what you're...
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'd fire shots at F1 drivers every day of my life if I could. But,
dear. Just making things clear. That's absolutely fine. I mean, what do you make of this driver, though? I mean, he's not really had to do anything of that. Speaking of what, maybe Max Verstappen-esque.
Yeah, well, you could say that, I suppose. It's been a very, very dominant drive. And I think that the Max Verstappen-esque bit applies to that last lap. There's no need for him to set the fastest lap at all, but he just did anyway, a 56.9 on that penultimate lap.
I thought you were talking about the contact. But no, that's fine. Matej Mikiewicz will make it through the triangle. Meanwhile, the battle for second is incredibly close. Mihai Neg, Luciano Vitfort still as they head their way down towards the triangle. Mikiewicz is going to be coming down towards the line. He's going to take this victory. We already know it. Luciano Vitfort sends one straight around the outside of the triangle. That is a wonder move as Mikiewicz takes the first win. It's absolutely superb from Luciano Vitfort to have taken over second position. It's going to be a drag race towards the line. It's going to be super tight, but Mihai Neg has to set up for third. At the absolute last, Luciano Vitfort did it with a clean move straight around the outside of the triangle. Villacrevi, Peter Daniel come across the line in 4th and 5th. But who's going to be in our reverse grid? Marvin Makkeberg is, Felix Bjorn is, Odd Brital is, Beck it is, and Dufek manages to hang on. No Sven Mackenberg, no Victor Strettermans inside that top 10. They will not be reversed to the front of the field.
And I think they would have had a great chance at running away with the race win if they had done. Not with no disrespect to Dufek, I think he is going to struggle and have to do some defending at the very least if he's going to end up a race winner in race number 2. But for Mackenberg and Straitmans, it may have been a little bit more simple. The fact that Dufek has hung on, though, is very impressive indeed, and will put him on pole.
Yeah, honestly, that was a mighty impressive race. What do you make of the move, though, from Luciano Vitford? Second time going into that chicane, tried it around the outside, bam!
Much better, really, wasn't it? And it says to me that the first time around was a bit of an accident, really. I mean, sometimes you see, and this goes back to F1 again, you see those kind of moves made intentionally from time to time, pushing other drivers off and all that kind of thing. It says to me that Vitford didn't actually really mean to do that. It just broke too late, and fair enough. But he made it clearly on the second attempt, and fair play to him. I'm glad he got the move done, a little bit better that time around.
Certainly so. Obviously, you can see the top 10 here. Those drivers behind: Sven Mackenberg, Victor Strettermans, Alexei Evtushenko, Gaspar Misch. Don't make any more mistakes, it's fine. Jesper Ontis, Charlie Monk, of course, Lichtenhagen, Rasmus Lufgren, and then Norman Norms, the 19 drivers that made their way to the end of the race. But now we have to deal with the reverse grid, so it's a very different style. It's still going to be the same thing, half an hour, still going to be a pit stop, so we've got that kind of open. I don't know who's going to win this one, at all, because it could be a runaway winner from that, from 10th place, from that reverse grid. Could be Matej Mikovic. He's certainly got the pace.
Yeah, the fact that he hasn't done any overtaking yet, I would be a little bit concerned about, because that does, make things a little bit more difficult for him. He doesn't know where the zones are particularly to actually do a pass or whatever. That could be a problem, but I think he'll be fine in terms of getting into the top 5 at the very least, in all honesty. And yeah, he's got the pace. It's not all about overtaking either, is it? I mean, there's that pit strategy to play with, and I'm sure it will be played with, especially the early part of that window. Those who are towards the back end of the top 10 now and get stuck in the first 4 laps will certainly be in at the earliest chance. Yeah,
I think some drivers, the likes of Mihai Neg, may change up their strategy in this race and may come in a little bit earlier than what they did in the previous one, mostly courtesy of fearing the imbalance of the car. I think that there's going to be a few drivers that were maybe shocked by that, because I can't imagine too many drivers would have done full race simulations coming into this. It's not normally something that we see for this kind of stuff. It's a bit more fun, it's a bit more light, it's a bit more community based. You don't tend to see people try harding until the end of their life to get ready for one of these.
No, as you do in other series sometimes. But yeah, it just helps to keep things a little bit. Although half an hour is not an unreasonable distance to just jump on and do a race practice, is it really?
I don't have the attention to that.
Well, maybe you haven't, but I know if I was in the RaceRoom Championship back in the day, when 2018, when I used to take things seriously, I would have probably at least done one race run through, especially for round 1. I would always have motivation for round 1, and after that it would die away quite quickly. So it's possible. Maybe they have tried a couple of things out.
Are you telling me that you don't take this seriously anymore?
No, I'm driving seriously, of course.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I don't think we did much practice when we did that race. We did a 24 hours of Spa. I don't think any of us did very much practice for that race.
It's 24 hours. You can practice while you're on the way.
Exactly. We did practice mid-race, and that's why we all had the same incident, only mine was slightly larger. But that's fine. We're not talking about that. We're talking about this, because it's about ready to go for the second race of the evening. Again, it's half an hour. This time, though, it's the top 10 reverse grid. So it's Michael Dufek, James Beckett on that front row, Radoslav Obratal, Felix Bjorn, Mackenberg, Daniel, Cravey, Neg, as we get underway. Couple of poor starts in all of that. Felix Bjorn's not got away, and there's been a big drama. Was that with our race winner? No, it was with Mihai Neg.
Dear me, that was a complete mess, and I'm amazed that only 2 were really caught up in that. There may well be some other cars who brushed on the way past, but that was a complete mess, unfortunately. And Neg and both Bjorn as well have gone off the road and towards the main straight, so a difficult start again. But thankfully, only caught up 2 drivers somehow.
Oh, Mate Mikiewicz has had a problem now. Mate Mikiewicz is round as we leave the S's. The race winner in the previous now has a lot of work to do to work his way back up the order. Marvin Mackenberg was out wide. Luciano Liffer gets himself into 6th position. Defecto still manages to hold on to the race lead, but we're only a few corners into the race and we've already seen so much drama as this time Luciano Liffer is going to get to the outside of the hairpin, the inside for this right-hand kick as we head our way up into the hairpin. It's got to be a big send around the outside that's not going to work, but it's going to set up a move surely into Spoon.
Well, I didn't really know who was going to win the race beforehand. I've got even less of an idea now with Neg and Mikiewicz both now down towards the back. And who's going to take the points for the round as well? That's something else we've got to sort of figure out over the course of the day. Who on earth is going to take the full points for winning this round? Because the guys who did well last time are not doing quite so well as of right now. Villa Crevi is doing all right, and he could be back on the podium already.
Yeah, exactly. We'll discuss a little bit as to how that side of things will work once more once this race has calmed down just a little bit, but I'm not sure when it will as Villa Crevi to the inside of Opera Tau sends it through, makes his way up into 3rd position. Could Villa Crevi be the driver we're looking at to take victory in the second race? As look to the outside, Luciano Liffer sends one in, bit of contact, and he got pushed out wide by Peter Daniel and said, "You're not going to push me out wide," and Luciano Liffer loops the Czech driver.
Well, I think that was more of a case of Daniel trying to take the apex there where there was someone down his inside, and this could be very tricky now. We could see 4 wide in towards turn 1 if we're not careful. There's 3 cars, believe it or not, and you need the aerial view to see it as they all stack up. Oh, and there was going to be always contact, and there is in the end. Straitmans goes wide, Lofgren goes all the way around, and that was all very messy as they tried to single file themselves into turn 1. They all slowed down more than the other, and eventually the Concertina caught up with them.
Yeah, the thing that was super predictable from the aerial cam going into the first corner there, it looks like it was going to happen. It happened exactly the way we thought it was going to happen, and yeah, big shame there as we look now at Marvin Mackenberg trying to work his way back up the order. You've got Lichtenhagen who started from basically the rear of the field, who's now worked himself inside the top 10 in just 2 laps. That is courtesy of the chaos that we've had in this one. I mean, I think we can tick up a few drivers that have potentially taken the victory. Maybe even Mate Mikiewicz not really taking victory in this one unless he gets that pit stop just right. Mihai Neg, another driver that was very high up, was on the podium in the previous race, now down in 15th position. It opens up the opportunity for drivers like Luciano Liffer to win the round.
This is all the complicated maths that you were referring to that is difficult to work out on the fly, especially when there are so many positions changing just lap after lap, and this is what's going to make it such a headache for every single round, and it's going to keep the championship really, really close as well. I can't see anybody really dominating this whole championship, not least because the field is relatively close, possibly with the exception of Mikiewicz in that opening race, but in the second race it's always going to be tricky for those who do well in the first.
Yeah, right, we're going to very quickly touch on it before we get down to the first corner, so try and stay with me. Effectively, each round of this is like a small championship. So you do race 1, you do race 2, you get points for where you finish in each of the races. Let's say it's 25 for a win and then 20 for second. Let's just say it's that. You then finish the round with 45 points. The highest person with the most amount of points from each given round wins the round, and then you get, let's say for example, 50 points for winning the round. That's what's applied to the championship. Yes, I've described that really badly. Yes, it sounds really complicated. I promise you it isn't. We're just really not very good at explaining it. I don't know if you want to give it a go, Ian, but it's a nice simple way. Basically, it's about winning the round itself. It's about being the most consistent in a given round, and that's what adds up to the championship rather than the individual races.
Yeah, there's round standings, and you're given points based on that, basically, and that's how you're ordered. So for example, after race 1 of the finale, we can't particularly say, oh, so and so needs to finish here and whatever. It's trickier than that.
Yeah.
But it's not. Yeah, it's a little bit unusual, but it means you have to have a good day overall. You can't just have half of a good day and call that a good points haul for the evening. You've got to be on it for both races, which I guess is the sort of advantage in it, I suppose, if you can call it that. It certainly makes it more difficult. Anyway, an advantage in a sporting aspect in that it really will get the best drivers to rise to the top, because the best drivers, of course, will have good whole days rather than just one good race.
Well, I mean, look at Luciano Liffer, who won all 3 of the opening rounds last season. He won in the MX5 Cup, one in the KTM Crossway, and then one in the GT3s as well, which is at Autodrome Most. Won all 3 of them. didn't win that many races, was just the most consistent, was on the podium in most of the races, blah, 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 blah. And it just pushed him to the victory. When you compare it to Matej Mikulic, winning the first race does not guarantee the victory of the round. He still has to fight his way through with the big drama that he's had. Here comes Lucianovic straight around the outside of Obratao, as he did against Mihai Neg at the end of the first race. Once again, a brilliant move. He's got that one nailed down.
Yeah, and people are going to weirdly start protecting the outside line in towards the Casio Triangle if this carries on too much. I'm not sure they will have seen it, to be fair, so they might not be aware that it's so good around there, but they're just going to continue to get surprised in that case over the course of the remainder of the race. That, by the way, was the last time they'll go past the pit lane without the pit lane being open, so we are going to see a lot of pit stops this next time around, and I'm sure Neg and Straitmans and Mikcevic, I'm imagining, are going to be the first one. Well, they're not going to be the first ones in because they're 13th and so on back, but they'll be proverbially the first ones in, desperate to get into the pit lane with the amount of traffic they're behind.
Yeah, if I'm in their kind of boots, you're looking at everyone ahead and thinking, right, let's do the percentage game. If more than 50% of them pit, we stay out. If less than 50% of them pit, we're coming in. Do the exact opposite to the majority to try and do something from this race. You know tyre wear's not that high. It doesn't matter that much. Strategically, it's about getting you into clean air. That is the most important bit from it. Mikulic will know that. Straitmans will know that. Neg will know that. They will all be paying very close attention to what happens with the grouping around them. At the front of the field, though, we've got 3 drivers separated by a second. We've got Dufek, who's led every single lap of this race. You've got James Beckett, and you've got Villacravey, who's joined this fight, but hasn't had the pace to really get his teeth sunk straight into it, despite us knowing that the Finnish driver is incredibly fast and is definitely capable of winning this race. Out wide goes James Beckett as they come through Spoon. Out wide goes Villacravy's rear end as they exit Spoon.
Be careful, Villacravey there, because that was a big slide from him through Spoon, but it's the way you have to drive these cars. It's like Comic Sans on the rear wing at the moment. James Beckett looking backwards at the moment to Villacravey. He's got ahead of steam through 130R now. He'll be looking for the outside line, brakes relatively late, but decides not to go for it. Maybe some past experiences in the previous races putting him off there, as he will now go to the pit lane, interestingly.
Wow, so rather than trying to get his way past Beckett and Defect, rather would remove himself from the battle. A couple of drivers also coming into the name. Marvin Mackerberg, not shocked by that one. I don't know if I saw Mihai Neg. Here comes Sven Mackerberg on the inside of Obratao coming into that first corner. Obratao with the outside line and will be able to hold on to 5th position. As expected, Marvin Mackerberg in, so Villacravey obviously joining him in the pit lane. Matej Mikulic into the pit lane along with Victor Straitmans. Those ones towards the back, Straitmans, Mikulic, now we were expecting those. We didn't see Mihai Neg come into the pit lane though, but I think that's because quite a few around him pitted and decided actually it'd be better if I stay out and try and pick up a couple of these spots on the track and let some of those, get the, not an undercut, but like get out of my way.
Yeah, he's probably got a lap before he catches Mish. He's probably going to catch Mish on this lap, and if he can get past him quite efficiently, then he might carry on a bit, Neg. But let's see how efficiently he can get through on the Slovenian or not. As now down into the hairpin again goes Vitbert. I think he's odds-on race winner here, Luciano Vitbert, because we saw how good he is at overtaking in the last race. We've seen how good of a pace he's got as well, both in qualifying and now the first race, and he's already up to what was 4th place, may well be 3rd, but we've just got to watch out for Villacravey. What's going to happen to him when he's out in that clean air? And
just to say that Luciano Vitbert might be a bit faster than Beckett and Defect. Well, the last lap of the race, Defect set a 59.2, let's just put it that way. Beckett set a 59.2, and Luciano Vitbert set a 57.5. He's almost 2 seconds a lap faster than those two that are leading the race. It's Mihai Neg, Gasper, Mish, and Evtushenko all battle over 9th, 10th, and 11th position coming up towards 130R. Bit of bump drafting as well.
Well, a bit of all sorts actually in towards 130R on this occasion, and this is exactly what Neg wanted to avoid really, but if he can get through efficiently then he'll be more than pleased with that, as Dufek comes in and so does James Beckett. Well, that is just a bit of a surprise, I've got to say. I think maybe they want to cover off Villacravey, but I would have stayed out if I was them.
Yeah, no, that was, surely you want to lead as many laps as you can, but no, that's fine. They are into the pit lane, and do you know what? Luciano Vitbert sat there thinking, sorry, what's just happened? Am
I dreaming?
I'll take it, thank you very much. So the Dutchman now has clean road ahead as he searches for his first victory in a race in this championship. But also, of course, if he gets a victory here. He had a second in the first race. That would be a guaranteed round victory from Luciano Bitfoot, which, to be fair, I don't know if we'd be too shocked by. He's very consistent.
He is very consistent, and you mentioned it there in the GT3 series win. You know, he only took one race win in that title season, and that is relatively little. Although we have seen titles, of course, 2 titles won with no race wins over the course of the RaceRoom Rank Championship history now in its 4th season. But even so, that's a low number for someone of his calibre. But the consistency, as you say, is what gets him there, as Gaspar Misch does indeed come into the pit lane. So after all that, it's actually disadvantageous for Mihai Neg to come in the pit lane. The way that these races work sometimes.
Yep. Like I say, I think it made sense as Lufgren's having a bit of a problem coming out of the first corner, and unfortunately, it's all of our Swedes at the back of the field. I feel bad if you're Swedish. Also, because I'll be visiting your country fairly soon, so again, big apologies. It made sense, you know, for Mikiewicz, for Stretmans to come in, but then it also made sense for them to have stayed out weirdly. It's kind of one of those ones of like, there's no real right or wrong decision in that. I think Mihai Neg staying out, things have now fallen in favour where it's absolutely advantageous to stay out on the track, to just keep the laps going. And I don't think we'll see Mihai Neg coming into the pit lane until right at the end, as Charlie Monk's going to try and make a move on Evtushenko.
He is, and Evtushenko is going to defend quite well into the final chicane. Oh, there it is. Well, that's the second time in 2 races that we've done that to him, and Mihai Neg now is going to be in trouble in the pit lane. He doesn't want to go in the pit lane. Well, I would have done if I was him there, but anyway, he's carried on, and he'll now be last of the runners who haven't pitted. Charlie Monk will try again round the outside, and that was a bit more successful. Yeah, nicely done. He cut in there just before turn 2, just ahead of Evtushenko. If you go too wide there, the inside line will prevail very easily, and so Charlie Monk made absolutely sure that wouldn't happen. He's up to 4th now.
Just to hammer home the point as well, you know what I'm going to say? No commentator's curse. We were talking about how Mihai Neg was doing the right thing. Fair enough. Is what it is.
It wasn't the right thing.
The spinning around is definitely not the right thing. But, you know, it's happened twice to the same driver. Which one's the more common denominator? Us talking good things about a driver, or a driver going for a spin, you know, in that sense? It's okay. Just wipe my hands clean with that one. Sorry. Sorry, Mihai Neg, if you watch this broadcast back. But you're on your own. Anyway, back to the race.
It was the same driver 2 out of 2, yes, but we did say things 2 out of 2 as well, so I'm not sure which is the common denominator, if I'm honest with you.
Look, if the commentator's curse exists, Luciano Bitfoot's driving really well at the moment. Okay, we'll see what happens in the next 16 minutes. Please don't crash. Oh my God.
I don't know which one I want to happen, but either one is going to be quite funny. So I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, what I wanted to say actually about Miskiewicz and also Mackenbert, or Straitman, sorry, as well, who have both come in. You talk about the right and wrong thing to do, you know, and they can almost do no wrong at that stage. There is an alternate world where they couldn't have done any right in this race as well, where there wasn't really a right decision, where they were stuck behind someone having not pitted, and when they came into the pit lane, they got stuck behind someone as well. And so that, you know, they couldn't have done the right thing, if you see what I mean. So thankfully this time around it sort of fell into their hands, and it's played into their hands a little bit, but there's an alternate world and probably an alternate race in one of the coming rounds where it doesn't quite go so well.
Well, no, I mean, to be fair, I think you're kind of right. I mean, Mikiewicz is, like, whether he stayed out, he would have had traffic. Whether he's come in, he's still got traffic. He looks to the inside at 130R, he still has traffic. So I think you're absolutely right. To be fair, that's kind of happened with Mikiewicz right here as Stretmans looks down the inside, backs out of the move on Mikiewicz. Probably understanding that going for a move on the Hungarian's not really the best option here. It's trying to make sure that he can pass Lichtenhagen and then work their way down the order. There might be an involuntary move potentially coming into the first corner.
Well, let's see what's going to happen here and towards the first turn. It's not going to go for it. Victor Straitman's probably the right choice, as you say, but we would have liked to see the side-by-side battle between them, probably, but not going to happen on this occasion. They should be back in the top 10 at least, and I think that'll be pleasing for Miskiewicz after his spin on the opening lap.
Horrendous line being taken there from Victor Straitmans going through the S's, but still manages to rescue it as they depart and now head up through Dunlop. Obviously, looking backwards towards Victor Stratemans, but ahead of this is Lichtenhagen, still able to hang on. This is going to be immensely frustrating for Mikiewicz, knowing that he's got a lot of speed. I'll just read you out the lap times. We know that Mikiewicz has been the fastest driver of this round, right? You know, in the previous race, he did set a 1 minute 56 rather, which we've not seen anyone in the 56s, though we might see a second driver venturing into it with Lucianovic at current lap time. We'll discuss that in a moment. But we've not seen anyone else in the 56s. At the moment, as Lucianovic comes into pit lane, fantastic, great. We won't see anyone. At the moment, his last lap time was a 59.0, was Matej Mikiewicz. The last lap time from Lichtenhagen was a 2 minute 4.2. Obviously, there's a mistake in that one, but he's lapping in the mid 59s. You're looking at a driver behind that can set 57s, potentially the odd 56, going 2 to 2.5 seconds a lap slower, struggling to get past someone. This is why Suzuka can be frustrating, and this is why people that are bad like Ewan hate this track.
Yeah, it wasn't my favourite, in all honesty. Mikiewicz now should be able to find his way through, though. He's on the outside, in towards the braking zone. Oh, he's broken a bit too late, though. Oh, no, and there's the turn across by Lichtenhagen, I've got to say, from that. Oh, dear, and he very nearly rejoined in the path of Esperantis as well. Thankfully, that was all okay. Oh, dear, well, he's rejoined straight into the side of Gasper Mish instead, who couldn't miss him, actually.
He did it. He did it.
Unfortunately, there's no way to say that Lichtenhagen pulled in front of someone else to rhyme with his name. But anyway, that's what happened out of the chicane, and he's dived it. But he's trying to retake places immediately and does so into turn one.
So I'm so proud of you. But no, that was the whole incident there. I mean, Mickey, I get the frustration, but when it didn't work on the first bit, like he kind of was on an awkward line and then still just went straight for the apex. And I get that, you know, maybe you could say that Lichtenhagen kind of came straight for the apex, but from that line, that was all a little awkward between the pair of them. And it kind of was always going to end up in that scenario, to be perfectly honest. Bit of a shame, but it is what it is. I understand the frustration for Mikiewicz, and like I say, this round has basically slipped through his fingers.
It really has. It really has, and what a shame for him as well. It's still worth, of course, soldiering on and trying to get what points you can from the day, but even so, or from the round, I should say, not from this race, to confuse people, but it's still, a bit of a forlorn hope at the moment. He might be able to get back to the top 10 again, but it's not what he was hoping for at all. And so we're looking around for possible round winners, and surely Lucianovic has got to be up there as one of them, because he's absolutely destroyed Dufek and Crevy there with his pace during that undercut. He's now nearly 5 seconds ahead of them.
Yeah, he is again flying, but he has the commentator's curse apparently. Ooh, spooky! It was Halloween yesterday, but not today. But maybe a mistake is on the horizon. Probably not. But we know what Lucianovic is like. I say he's incredibly consistent and such. And with 11 minutes and 20 seconds left to go in the race, he's got 3 more drivers to clear, which will happen in the next lap. Really, they probably all will come in this lap by. So we'll see Daniel Mackenberg and Neg all return to the pit lane to get their mandatory stop done, to get the 2 tyres onto the car. And the battle for what will be second on the road at the moment here, a battle between Dufek and Villa Cravey as the yellow flag comes out. It is not Lucianovic, it's Felix Bjorn.
Is, and he's going to drop behind Evtushenko as well. Ironically, at the place where Evtushenko spanned at race 1, Felix Bjorn has done the same in race 2. James Beckett is behind him as well in 17th, having, according to that graphic, made 2 stops. And to be honest, I've got absolutely no idea why, or no recollection of why.
Maybe there was a jump start or something in there, although there can't have been. They got the whole... So, I don't know, maybe when... There's no reason why you would make a second stop of this. And the only reason I could think of is that if you came in for your stop and you didn't take the 2 mandatory tyres. Maybe you made a mistake, didn't press the right button exactly, and then you have to come in to do it. That's the only thing that I can think of as to why you would come into the pit lane twice.
So yeah, it's not impossible to do, although I have found in my experience RaceRoom's way of doing pit stops, while you're on the fly, I actually find the easiest of any in sim racing, actually. Maybe that's just I don't know if that's just me, but I think it's very easy to work with. So I'd find that somewhat difficult to believe, but I mean, it's all possible. We've all done it.
I mean, I've done many a mistake in pit lane, so who knows.
Or indeed
Obratel,
not going to the pit lane when you should have.
chat at you. Get out. Obratel and Marvin Mackenberg fight over 7th position. Obviously, this will become a slightly better position once Mihai Neg, Sven Mackenberg, and Daniel come into the pit lane. I think they'll definitely gain on Mihai Neg. I think with the 30-odd seconds, maybe not on Daniel and Sven Mackenberg, but again, we'll have to wait and see once they come into the pit lane. Here is the battle for 5th position on the road as Matej Mikovic sets the fastest lap of the race with a 57.065. So we still got pace in that car, clearly. And maybe there's a top 10 on here.
I think there is. Ontis is just in front, and there's Charlie Monk as well. It's in his sights at the moment, although there are only 5 laps to go, including the one that he's on at the moment. Any more than that, and it's probably going to be a struggle, because then you get to the likes of Straightmans as well, and that is going to be a problem, I would imagine. So Miskovic will be able to recover a top 10. Where that's going to put him in terms of the round, don't even ask me, because I've got no clue. But he'll be up there, and this round basically has done for him, a good bit of confidence, I would say, in terms of he does have the pace, and that is what you can say for Miskovic from this round. He does have the pace, and he will be a championship contender, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, he's definitely got the speed in this car. I mean, he's the fastest driver basically in this car. Maybe got a bit of luck. We didn't see what actually happened to him, as we'll see Daniel, Mackenberg and Neg all come into the pit lane as the window is about to close. But yeah, we didn't see what happened on that first lap to Matej Mikovic, but we know he's got the pace in this car, was on pole position by half a second, won the first race here at Suzuka. Big spin ahead from Charlie Monk, and that'll be an easy position gained as Monk rejoins straight onto the apex. There's not really much he can do. Mikovic might pick up both positions in a single corner.
Well, we suspected, is he going to make it into the top 10 by the end of the race or not? Is he going to run out of time? Well, no is the answer. He only needed one more lap, as it turned out, because Charlie Monk has had a spectacular trip through the grass, and in the end it left Mikovic's job very, very easy in terms of making his way through on Jesper Ontis. He is now through into the top 10. That might well be it for Matej Miskovic here, but nevertheless, it's a great drive from him, and at least he has recovered those positions. In terms of those who pitted there, Sven Mackenberg is now 2nd. Petter Daniel is in around 5th, and Neg is just out behind these guys in 11th. Maybe he will be able to grab a top 10. Yes, he just holds on ahead of Ontis.
Yeah, came out of the pit lane right on the apex as Ontis was trying to get through. I thought there might have been side by side between Neg and Mikovic. Those two will both be very quick. Two of the fastest drivers that we've got on the grid now embroiled in that fight. The fight for 2nd place, though, Sven Mackenberg, Dufek and Villa Cravey. Obviously, Sven Mackenberg coming fresh out of the pit lane now finds himself ahead. Daniel, fresh out of the pit lane, is not too far behind. So we've got quite a fight here showing. Marvin Mackenberg also joining the mix, that car in the background. So a 5-way fight for the final couple of steps on the podium. Big look around the outside coming in from Villa Cravey. That one's not going to work as out wide goes Sven Mackenberg.
This is all going to be a big battle to the very end of the race. Look at how close everyone is. This is what we're fighting for now in terms of the points and in terms of the end of the round as well. There's a lot on the line here in the 2nd race. Here goes Dufek on the inside, holding on very well. On the inside, I've got to say, Mackenberg with a long, long way around the outside at Spoon. That's not going to happen. Cravey, Daniel and the other Mackenberg, Marvin Mackenberg, is here as well.
Yeah, this is going to be a thrilling fight, I get the feeling, for the next few laps. We should have 3 more left to go. Bit of a look to the outside from Villa Cravey coming into 130R. The 5 of these battling don't even really count out the likes of Obratel, who aren't too far behind. If this lot fight, I mean, a few of them might lose out spots. It is quite a pack here, heading their way into the Casio Triangle as Marvin Mackenberg was trying to look to the outside of Petter Daniel coming through for 5th position. But at the moment, it is Dufek hanging on after a brilliant move. Got it done, and now Sven Mackenberg struggling to really turn these tyres on at the moment.
Yeah, struggling really, and that's the imbalance thing that you were talking about earlier on that he's experiencing at the moment, feeling really quite unbalanced by the looks of things. And I've got to say, hats off to Dufek in this race as well. I thought he would be overtaken quite a lot throughout the course of this half an hour, but he's only actually lost 1 place throughout the entire thing with still only 5 minutes to go.
He's done very well. Has done very, very well. His Dufek to hang on to his position and also to kind of like start matching the pace of the grouping around. I mean, still is, arguably the slowest driver in this group. But he's the one at the front, and he's just put a move on. So, it's kind of like he's probably sat there right now being like, I can absolutely grab this spot on the podium. I think, like, pace-wise, as much as I'd say maybe he is the slowest in the group, I don't mean that as in, like, oh, he's the slowest by a second or whatever. No, he's obviously around the same kind of speed. But it's just, all those minute details. Out wide, Villacravey goes. Peter Daniels managed to sneak his way through. We have the outside line going through T12, though. We'll have to bring it in before they get their way into Spoon.
Yeah, and thankfully caught the inside line as well, did Daniel, which really helps. If you go around the outside there through turn 12, as I said before, you really do find yourself in trouble because it's just a long way around with no benefit at all. Crevy's really struggling. His early stop may have disadvantaged him, and Marvin Mackenberg has felt the effects of it. He's spun around on the exit of Spoon Curve, and he's got to pick himself back up again. I think Villacravey is really struggling, and, it's just basically slid straight to the side of Mackenberg there.
And Obertal's worked his way through, and to be fair, Marvin Mackenberg might have a couple of big dangers approaching Victor Stretemans, sure. Mate Mikiewicz closing in, fastest first sector by over 1/10 of a second for Mikiewicz. He is going for another 1 minute 56. He set one in the first race, would dearly love one in the second as he's charging his way back up the order. He's in 9th position at the moment after big first lap dramas. Defect takes the defensive line down into the first corner. Sven Mackenberg's trying to get his way up into that runner-up position. The look down the inside as they head their way towards the second apex. And Sven Mackenberg is not able to make his way through. It's a decent move from the Czech driver. There's a couple of Czech drivers either side of Mackenberg. He's got a lot to worry about in that.
In a Czech sandwich, checkmate, will it be a little bit later on?
It's not a Czech sandwich.
Oh, it's not even a, yeah, well, yeah, I was too busy thinking about checkmate. Anyway, let's forget chess. Defect's still doing a very good job, though. We said it last lap, but he really is. And I don't think. Well, it kind of is disrespectful to say it's the slowest in the group, isn't it? I suppose, but he's still going very well in this race. There's no doubt about that. And just look at those around him who started around him in this race. By the way, where are they now? He's a long way ahead of those he didn't qualify with, but started with. Sorry.
I was so proud of you earlier on with your Mish pun, and now you drop that clanger. It's a German sandwich with Czech bread. If anyone was wondering why I was so furious about the idea, you don't make a ham sandwich by putting 2 pieces of ham either side of a bit of bread. Anyway, moving on. Before we can really get wound up in that, we've got 2 laps, or what lap and a bit left to go before we cross the line, crown our round winner, which should be Luciano Bifford at this point, but we've got so much to deal with in all this. You've got Defect with the defensive line, once again coming in. Sven Mackenberg looking to the outside. We know an outside move into the triangle can work, but Defect is driving so well at the moment, just not making a mistake.
And that is sometimes all you have to do around Suzuka, especially when you're in single make racing like we are in the Praga Cup here tonight. It's very tricky to make your way through if the driver in front of you just does not make a mistake, and that is the case for Dufek at the moment. Into turn 1, again there's no chance. I reckon this is going to come down to the final chicane all over again, and how aggressive are they going to be with that driver in second place?
Big time. There is definitely a lot more opportunities left to come round here. Obviously, for Defect right now, the most important thing that he can do is not to deviate from the racing line at all. No mistakes over the next 4 kilometers from this point. Cannot make if there is a single mistake making around here, this circuit bites, and trust me, that trio behind will also bite. They will jump at the opportunity of getting themselves onto the podium and move themselves up into that runner-up spot. More points in this round, more points in the championship. They will want to get after it. Defect has a lot of pressure to deal with, but he's got, Sven Mackenberg, Peter Daniel and Villacravey, 3 drivers that we see in the Racing Rank Championships all of the time.
Yeah, absolutely all of the time, and so it's a really great job. I can't stress how much of a great job that Michal Dufek has done so far here today. Maybe they're going to take each other out of the equation. Peter Daniel and Sven Mackenberg thought about a side-by-side manoeuvre there into Spoon. Thankfully they didn't, and it's all going to come down to that final chicane.
Yeah, certainly so. Navigating his way up towards that chicane right now is Luciano Wittfurt. He's going to come through the triangle. He's come down towards the line. He is going to take this victory. And again, commentators' curse don't exist. I already talked about it. But boom, big splash bosh, Luciano Vitford. Let's see who's going to finish on the podium with him. Dufek, second position. Mackenberg, of course, in third at the moment. Mackenberg doesn't want third, he wants second. He goes around the outside of the Casio triangle. There might be contact between the pair of them, but it's not. Dufek comes through, and Mackenberg might lose out the podium here. As Peter Daniel's got the outside run, but watch out for Villa Cravey as well. It is going to be Dufek onto the podium with second place. Into third, it's going to be a drag race, and it is going to be Peter Daniel by the tiniest of margins, taking it over Sven Mackenberg. What a brilliant read from him as he works his way into third. Then Sven Mackenberg behind. Then we get Villa Cravey, Marvin Mackenberg, Mate Mikiewicz picking up a couple of positions on the last lap as well. What a round of racing that was. I mean, just again, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, fantastic. And Peter Daniel and Sven Mackenberg credited with the same time. So I'm not sure how they split them, but we can't see it for the moment. And so Peter Daniel has been given that podium just ahead of Sven Mackenberg. A great race between them, though. Hats off again to Dufek for hanging on ahead of some big names in the world of the RaceRoom Rank Championship. And what a fight in the end. He did take a risk, though, through the second part of that chicane, I've got to say. He dove for that second apex as if there was no one around him at all. In the end, it was fine, but it really could have been very, very different for him.
Yeah, but those, sometimes, we've always said it before, if you want to win a race or you want to finish in a higher position, sometimes you've got to take those risks that may cost you in the long run. And that's what we saw from Sven Mackenberg there. He was a fighter. Got to say, a big shout out to Dufek there. Dealt with a lot of pressure and dealt with it brilliantly. Just did not make a mistake in the second half of the race.
And that's exactly why he's finished second in this one. I mean, it's what you have to do around here at Suzuka. And so fair play to him for that. It's, sometimes people say an easy circuit to defend on, but it certainly wasn't in the end. It was a difficult one for Dufek, but not making the mistakes is exactly what can get you places around here, or at least keep you places around here. And that's maybe a sign of things to come in the Praga Cup. Those who start up towards the front for race 2 will be difficult to get past, if that is anything to go by.
And of course, Luciano Vitford there, second in the first race, first in this one. Let's talk a little bit about him. Definitely our round winner. Give him another point. Obviously, he's won so many rounds in the RaceRoom Rank Championship in a whole different category. It's another one to add to his list of round wins. But he had to work for this one. Obviously, the first race he started in second, dropped back to 8th, still managed to work his way back up into second, and this race obviously went from 9th to 1st.
Yeah, it was not an evening that, on paper, when this race is put and this round is put into the history books, it's going to look like a pretty simple day for Luciano Vitford, or not a difficult day, but in reality, it wasn't easy by any means. To give you a few statistics, by the way, before we go, because I know we enjoy them. That was Luciano Vitford's 6th RaceRoom Rank Championship win, which gets him to tied second overall now. That's overall in all the series, by the way. And this is the 4th series he's ever won in. So there you are. That's some stats for Luciano Vitford at the end of another win that he's or another series that he's taken a win in.
Yeah. Now, of course, the round ones of all of these we've already done. Laguna Seca, Hockenheim Ring and Suzuka, we've already ticked those off, which means we'll be going back to the Mazda MX-5 next round at Mid-Ohio. Then we go to Imola, and then we return to the Praga Cup, of course, for the second round of the championship at Interlagos. Obviously, if you want to come and take part, get onto the RaceRoom Rank stuff, get your rank all the way up, and then maybe you can join us in for the broadcast. Unfortunately, though, if you like stats and stuff, you don't have any for the next 3 weeks, because it's Zach and Darren taking us through the next 3 weeks. And apparently, Darren Thacker really likes stats. He does. I've seen some of the spreadsheets and stuff. He does like stats and information. So it's fine. It's fine. But you have to deal with them for the next 3 weeks. Of course, they'll be taking us through the MX-5s at Mid-Ohio, Carreras at Imola, and the Pragas when we go racing at Interlagos. Then you rejoin Zach's win. We're not going to talk about that too much at the moment. I am unfortunately not here until December the 13th. I will rejoin for the Praga Cup at Silverstone. And of course, there's a lot more to deal with on a RaceRoom side of things. So obviously pay attention to all things social media, and obviously just get onto it on Steam. From myself, Liz McGlade, from Ewan O'Leary, as well as well, of course, of Captain Coffee, of Chris Doe, behind the scenes. I always say we need to give him his plaudits. Does a lot of work to bring us not only the broadcast, but also bring us the RaceRoom Ranked Championship. It's so much fun. We hope you all enjoy it at home, and hopefully we'll see you out on the track next time as well. Until then, though, thank you so much. We'll see you around, and goodbye.
Do you also feel the same as this car enthusiast? He's reached his vehicle dream, but suddenly the original black wheels seem a bit boring. A colourful detail would add a lot more pep, and a little eye-catcher to match the paint would make the car perfect. Customization options don't only transform the wheel to visually match the vehicle, but also provides one-of-a-kind look on the road. The wheel color, rim protectors, center caps, valve caps, and even the wheel bolts can be configured and designed individually using style components of the new BBS Unlimited wheel system. And here's how it works. The BBS Unlimited base wheels are available in a total of 8 different colors, whether it be a glossy, satin, or polished finish, or from a deep indigo blue to racing gold to a rich bronze. Rim protectors are a colorful detail to visually enhance the wheel while preventing damage from curb contact. In addition, the rim protectors can easily and quickly be replaced and renewed at any time. In total, 6 different designs are available. The center cap completes the wheel. So how cool would it be if it could also be customized? BBS Unlimited Style makes this possible. It's available in 56mm and 70.6mm diameters and can be applied in a variety of ways with the BBS logo. The center cap is available in 2D or 3D embossing, as well as in several color variations. And with the 3D rotation cover, the BBS logo remains visible to everyone, even when the car is in high gear. The valve caps complement the wheel in 6 different colors. This gives the individual wheel an even more coherent look. You can even choose the wheel bolt in the last step to match the wheel. Available in black, silver, and even titanium. With the help of the BBS Unlimited style components, you're able to create a work of art out of a conventional wheel, according to your own wishes and ideas. Just take a look at our configurator, and after a few clicks you can already start designing the perfect wheel for your vehicle. Do you have any questions about customization? Then contact the wheel expert now.